On this video, I will talk about interpersonal synergies. And the inspiration for this research work comes when I watch a rugby match. One of the main questions that comes to my mind was, are they really coordinated to each other? Well, we may assume, also based in previous research in ecological psychology, that players and subjects in general only need a medium such as visual coupling to be linked to each other, to be coupled to each other, and in that way coordinate to each other. So we may assume that we have interpersonal coordination in the rugby match, but we'd like to address how this kind of interpersonal coordination may emerge, may be formed during the course of an action, of a specific action, such as the 2 versus 1 situation in rugby union. So in Greek, synergy means work together. But for that to happen, at least two main features must be present. One is, and on every social or in any biological system, needs that more than one element for a synergy could be formed. And second, the two subjects must work together and act towards a common goal. So synergies formation are quite task specific, and these act towards a common goal means that up to a certain point, players and performers need to coordinate to each other to form a synergy. But the thing is, when we try to look for a rugby match and we are able to capture all the displacements, all the trajectories that the players can perform along the course of a match, we can saw that they have an immense amount of solutions. There is several solutions to achieve a task-specific goal. So for the entire amount of several solutions that may be available for the players to form synergies, only some of them will be useful for that purpose. So what we are looking for is systems where we have more than one element, that the elements should act towards a common goal. For that purpose, they need to coordinate to each other. There are several solutions to achieve a specific goal, which means equifinality. And there is also the participants, the performers, or the players must have a main feature of a synergy, which is a reciprocal compensation due to a mutual dependency. Well, I will try to specify this a little bit more for a 2 versus 1 situation. So when we watch a rugby player, a ball carrier, passing the ball to a support player, we can saw that this movement happens in a space, in a specific space. Also, this movement, this performance, this movement has a goal. And for instance, when we have a 2 versus 1 situation in rugby, the goal should be, the performance goal should be, maintain an interpersonal angle between the ball carrier and the support player in order that in the moment of the pass, the support player can catch the ball, can receive the ball while running, because these cause an enormous advantage for the receiver and a big disadvantage for the defenders. So within that space, we have task elements, task-relevant elements that might contribute to stabilize the performance goal. For instance, we may have players' relative positions, and we also have players' running line velocities. So what we want to highlight now, emphasize now, is that perhaps the way that players adjust the running line velocities will contribute to stabilize this interpersonal angle in the moment of the pass. And that way, perhaps hypothetically, they form a synergy. So players create synergies where the task elements adjust to each other to stabilize the performance goal. And this emphasizes a complementary pair between the variability that it is needed on the running line velocities to stabilize the performance goal in the surroundings of a certain reference value. So what we have in our task, in our research task, is exactly these. players' running line velocities, they need to adjust to each other to stabilize the player's position, the interpersonal angle in the moment of the pass. To quantify the hypothetical existence of interpersonal synergies in a 2 versus 1 situation in rugby, we used a method called Uncontrolled Manifold, which is a concept that was created a few years ago by Schoner and Scholz. So, when we plot the task elements, let me remember that the task elements are the player's running line velocities. When we plot the velocity of the ball carrier with the velocity of the support player, we have all the combinations, all the adjustments that the players can do right here in this plot. So we can say that we have a manifold, and this black line here represents the manifold. But here we have two possible solutions, two possible combinations that might contribute or not to the stabilization of the performance goal. The first is, if we calculate the variance in an orthogonal space perpendicular to the manifold, this variance is the variance that will not contribute. On the contrary, it will disturb the stabilization of the performance goal. In other words, trying to be more specific for this task, players' running line velocities that do not contribute, that do not adjust in a way that will stabilize the interpersonal goal. On the contrary, these running line velocities will disturb the stability of the interpersonal angle between the players that is needed to receive the ball while running. On the other side, we have other kind of variance. We have the variance along the manifold. And this variance along the manifold, we know that it contributes to stabilize the interpersonal angle at optimal values, allowing the receiver to catch the ball while running. And that way, we can say that we have a synergy between the ball carrier and the support player. The thing is, the variance along the manifold should be left completely free. Here is where all the possible solutions between players, the adjustments of players' running line velocities, will contribute to stabilize that performance goal, that interpersonal angle. And that's why this can be called the uncontrolled manifold. So to calculate the UCM, the value, we can have a ratio where we have the good variance over here and the bad variance. And the output, despite some mathematical complexity that is needed to compute these concepts, the output is very, very easy to analyze. An UCM value above 1 means that we have a synergy, and the UCM value below 1 means that we don't have synergies. So our results point towards this direction. From the 55 trials under analysis, we identified the presence of interpersonal synergies on 19 of them. So on 34% of the trials, display a UCM value above 1, which is consistent with the existence of interpersonal synergies. So our main discussion points or main conclusions are these. 1, the control over dyadic behavior is on the player's velocity. Some solutions we know that might work, some others don't. A synergy can exist for any interpersonal angle between 10 degrees and 51 degrees, which means that players adjust the running line velocities to stabilize an angle with the main purpose that the receiver should receive the ball while running. And that angle, we have angles from 10 degrees, 20, 25, and up to 51. Third, this means dyadic behavior in rugby union shows evidence for equifinality. Players can adjust the running line velocities from several different ways as long as they stabilize the interpersonal angle in the moment of the pass. Well, theoretically, by forming synergies, players are better able to resist to the disturbances caused by the opponent defenders. But this is something that we need to show evidence. This is perhaps one limitation, is that so far we identified the presence of some kinds of interpersonal synergies. Now we also need to link these interpersonal synergies with players' performance. And then we are very curious about the remaining 66% of the trials where we do not identify the presence of synergies. Perhaps the task elements that might contribute to stabilize the interpersonal angle, it is not the running line velocities, but could be other task elements such as players' positions. Thank you for watching this video.